where you have a crowd of people who contribute to an individual with a need. Apply that to things other than donations and charities. Put that online. You could fund businesses, tech companies, art, music, and film. One of the simplest examples I can give you guys is, let's say you're an artist and you want to record a professional CD. So you need $5,000 to go to a studio to record this CD. You would put your project online, create a profile, and in exchange for a donation, you must offer that individual a reward. So what's happening in this particular side of the industry is, let's say for a $25 donation, the artist will say, I will give you a finished copy of my CD that I will record professionally once I receive the $5,000. So you're pre-selling a product or a service and promising the reward down the road. It's an amazing thing for startups. If you have a prototype, you can just go to Kickstarter with a prototype and then promise 6 months down the road that you will deliver on that prototype after you get the money to raise for the manufacturing costs. So it's changing the game in how startups raise capital. This is a great infographic. Crowdfunding in 2009 globally was $1 billion a year. Flash forward to 2013, $5 billion a year globally in 1 year. That's a nice hockey stick growth, right? From 1 billion to 5 billion. The World Bank in 2013 in November released a report that in 20 years, they estimate crowdfunding globally will be a $90 billion a year industry. UC Berkeley College has one of the only crowdfunding entrepreneurial centers that is part of the school, and I would love to talk to you about UConn, because if you guys jump on the crowdfunding education side of things, you guys are going to be innovative. I mean, you're already innovative, but I think you should look into that. You know, UC Berkeley College, they said the U.S. equity crowdfunding market size, and this isn't going to happen overnight, it's going to take years to happen, but U.S. equity crowdfunding market size could potentially be $300 billion in the U.S. alone. This is disrupting capital markets and traditional finance organizations. I've been speaking with Fortune 50 companies who commission reports to say, let's look at what the risks and benefits are of crowdfunding to the capital markets. I can't mention the name because it's confidential, but I spoke to a Fortune 50 company about this. So, in every crowdfunding campaign, you should plan at least 3 to 6 months in advance before you ever launch the fundraise button. What's happening, unfortunately, right now in crowdfunding is it's starting to become a buzzword. People hear about it. The first thing they do when they hear about it is, great idea one day, a week later they're launching a crowdfunding campaign. And they're wondering why the internet angels are not coming down to save them. The point is, in order to execute an appropriate crowdfunding campaign, you have to go through what I call the 9 stages of crowdfunding. How do I know what these 9 stages of crowdfunding are? Well, I've had to go through them myself, because what I'm going to share with you in a little bit is, you know, Reality Crowd TV is actually a reality television program about the crowdfunding movement, similar to the Shark Tank without the bite. So instead of a panel of sharks criticizing someone's idea, we have a panel of mentors in an angel environment nurturing these entrepreneurs through the 9 stages of crowdfunding. So we're going to launch our own Indiegogo campaign in about 1 to 3 months. We've been planning for 8 months, building our crowd. But every company, whether you're crowdfunding or whether you're just going through business in general, should go through these 9 stages, which is your business plan, securing your intellectual property, building your social media, coming up with a public relations strategy, coming up with a campaign strategy. What is your message? How are you going to get your message across to the general population, and how are you going to inspire people to help you? Networking and team building, what we're all doing right now, we're networking. Your website development, your profile and video, and then finally, how are you going to fulfill on the rewards? Once you have the money, you have to fulfill on your promises, and oftentimes manufacturing clients don't take into account the many costs of prototyping and manufacturing and all those things. All right, so just to give you a brief overview, so donation crowdfunding is literally just straight donations. It's just taking donations through the internet. This isn't so much new because major nonprofit organizations have their own portals. They raise money online. What is new, though, is this is being used by people in distress. If a natural disaster occurs, someone can just kind of like go online within a week's notice and say, my house just burned down and we lost everything, can you help us? In fact, if any of you have seen my website prior to coming here, it's a terrible website. We hired a web developer and a week later her house did burn down. And so it's been 3 months, we're still working with her because we understand it's a tough situation. But she went on GoFundMe, which I didn't show you here. She went on there, put her website up, she had a lot of social capital, a lot of relationships. Within a week she raised $10,000 from her friends and family. So like a personal example of how she used crowdfunding, and she heard about it through us, so it's great to see it actually happen for her. So you want to have a compelling story, highly dependent on social capital and relationships, and of course if you have social media and PR working for you, it's going to amplify your fundraising efforts. YouCaring.com, by the way, I believe they just raised over $100 million, and the amazing thing about them, I don't know what their business model is, but they don't charge any fees, like a percentage of the raise. They're free. So like anyone can go on and all the money that's raised by the donor is kept. So I'm not sure how they stay in business. I mean, they're doing something. This is what we all know as the Kickstarter and Indiegogo model. Donation in exchange for reward. Kickstarter is unique because they are an all or nothing platform and they don't allow any other way. So let's say you have a fundraising goal of $100,000. If you raise $90,999, you will not get any of the money and it'll be all returned to the contributors on Kickstarter. Obviously you're going to pitch in $1 to get that goal to happen. I mean, you'll find a way, but in other words, if you don't raise it all, you're not going to get it. Indiegogo, however, you could choose to do that same all or nothing model, but they also have what is known as flexible funding, which is keep what you raise. The difference here is if you don't reach your goal on Indiegogo when you do keep what you raise, they double the amount of money they take as a percentage. So like I believe they're only 5% of what you raise, but let's say you only raise like half of the amount, they're going to charge you 10% of the half of the amount that you raised. So they kind of penalize you if you don't hit the goal. Social media and PR is extremely important, but what most people don't realize is the majority of the successes on Kickstarter and Indiegogo are driven by the project creator, meaning the people running the projects have to rely on their traditional networks to get them the initial burst of funding. This is why the whole purpose of 3 to 6 months of planning in advance is to get you to reach 30% of your funding goal within the first week of the campaign. Why is 30% of funding within the first week critical? If you're using these huge sites like Indiegogo and Kickstarter, I think they're both in the top 1,000 Alexa rankings for website views, right? So they're like highly trafficked websites. There's thousands of projects, however, that are on these sites. So how do you get noticed? You get noticed by having a lot of traction in the first week, 30% of funding, and that usually will trigger the algorithm to get you on the front page of Kickstarter and Indiegogo. That's what we help people do. Get to 30% so you can get on the front page, and then people who don't know you, the herd mentality, will come in and say, there's traction, this person looks credible. I'm going to take a look at it now. Now I'll, they have a good video, they have a good product, they have a good profile, I'll support them. PR people will not write about you unless you do have 30% of your funding, because they don't want to just write about a loser, right? I mean, no one's a loser, I don't mean to be like that, but no one wants to write about a project that doesn't have traction. So as soon as you hit that too, your pitch to PR people and bloggers and journalists is that much easier because they see the traction and then they write about it and they link directly to your fundraising page. So all their eyes from their viewership now are funneling to your page. So that's a huge, huge opportunity. Now this is where I believe many of you in this audience are really excited about, which is the equity crowdfunding coming through. How many of you in this audience are angels or VCs? How many of you feel threatened from crowdfunding your business models? Okay, good. I'm glad you guys are forward thinking. Just a quick thing.
It's not a threat, it's an opportunity.
Absolutely. Think of it this way. If you're an angel or a VC, the risk is being shifted. If you look at your angel or VC model right now, you probably turn away 90% of the people come to you, even more, right? 90+%. Imagine if you had another option for them in your business model that said, you know, right now I just don't see it, but if you could prove it to me, I will help you with some certain resources to go through this crowdfunding process. If you prove to me that your concept works on these things and you do the hard work, then, all right, I can see there's a consumer demand for what you got. So I'm not just going to throw you away anymore. I'm going to foster your growth to help you, and if you prove it to me, then let's talk. It'll make VCs will become the most loved people in the world when that happens. You know.
Not likely.
So you got So you got the 2012 Jobs Act. It had 3 or 4 titles relating to equity crowdfunding. Title 2 is excellent. This is lifting the ban on general solicitation of accredited investors. That is a huge change. There's about 8.7 million accredited investors in America, but the majority of them don't invest in private placements. I think there's only around 400,000 that regularly do, or something like that. Fortunately, I cannot tell you where I got that stat from, but I heard it somewhere. And now that you're allowed to do general solicitation, the way that it's working is they're doing it through funneling them to their crowdfunding websites, and they're doing a self-certification process on the website. So if you go to their website and you want to view the offerings that are being offered online of these private companies, you go to register and they say, do you make, and by the way, an accredited investor is an individual who makes $200,000 a year or is worth $1 million in net worth excluding their personal residence. Then there's another higher number if you're married, but I don't know that off the top of my head.
300.
300,000? Yeah. And so you go to the website, you register, and it says self-certified. Do you make 200,000? Do you have a net worth of this? You know, under perjury of law, are you telling the truth? And then you do that, you give them their information, and you're registered. Before anyone can invest, of course, they do another form of due diligence. There's companies out there that are being created just to do due diligence on accredited investor certification. And so you'll have to get tax returns and all your personal financial statements and accounting opinions and all those things. But it's amazing because to invest, you have to be an accredited investor. But to bring a startup to these websites, you don't. To be a startup, you can bring your business, if you have a great business plan, to these websites who have a database of accredited investors who are crowdfunding companies. One of the biggest ones out there is AngelList. How many of you are familiar with AngelList? I mean, they're basically building syndicates online with lead investors or lead personalities, and they're implicitly giving these lead personalities the authority to make investment decisions for them. It's pretty powerful. Real estate crowdfunding, though, is going to be huge, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But right now, the Hard Rock Hotel in Miami is being crowdfunded on realtymogul.com for accredited investors. They're refinancing some sort of mortgage, and they're doing it through accredited investor crowdfunding. And the beauty is, not only are you earning interest on your debt, but they're giving you perks of the hotel, so you could bring your buddies in and, hey, this is my hotel, come on into the VIP lounge, whatever the case may be. So another piece of this, which is the really exciting piece in my opinion, is Title III. Since 1933, when the Great Depression occurred, the Securities and Exchange Act said you must be an accredited investor in order to invest in a private company. They said that because there was extreme risk at the time. People were losing their shirts. They said wealthy individuals are maybe not smarter, but they're able to able to afford to lose money. Flash forward to 2012, you have the internet age where information is at our fingertips. We have more information today than at any time in history. Supposedly the American public is smarter today as well. But not only do you have the information age, but you have the wisdom of the crowd, is what they call it. As noted in a lot of campaigns, the crowd is pointing out flaws in people's business plans. And the great thing about what this equity is going to do is it's all going to be done through crowdfunding websites. It's all going to be done through an offering page and a link. So if anyone raises capital online for an equity investment, there is a comment section that's going to be there for anyone to see, full transparency, and people are going to ask some tough questions. If the business owner cannot answer those tough questions, then that's a red flag for any of the other members of the crowd. So just so you guys know, like some safeguards. There's the wisdom of the crowd. There's information on the internet, and there's also the caps to the investors. So Title III is allowing for general solicitation of unaccredited investors, meaning instead of only 8.7 million people in America who can invest currently in private companies, they're expanding that to the U.S. population, 300 million. So anyone, regardless of income, can now invest in a private company as soon as the Securities and Exchange Commission finalizes the rules. The caps are, if you make under $100,000 a year, you can invest $2,000 or up to 5% of your income, which is $5,000. If you make over $100,000 a year, you can invest 10% of your income up to an annual cap of $100,000. For a business, it's only limited to $1 million a year that you can raise as an entrepreneur, as an issuer. The regulations were 585 pages long, so there's a lot of safeguards. Registration with SEC, registration with FINRA if you're a broker-dealer funding portal. And actually a lot of people are saying, because of how much regulation, it might cost even $20,000 for someone to even go through this process because of all the compliance, legal, and all these things. So if you're only trying to raise 30 grand, this option is not going to work for you. If you're trying to raise more than that, it will. But it's probably not going to be, the original intent was for small businesses. The guy who's trying to raise 30,000 will not be able to do this, unfortunately. Title IV is another interesting one. So, has anyone ever heard of this old regulation in the Securities Exchange Commission called Regulation A? I wasn't too familiar with it until a real estate company called Fundrise.com, crowdfunding site, was using it. But apparently, you can actually generally solicit under Regulation A, which is out right now, to unaccredited investors. But the problem is, it is a state-by-state regulatory environment where if you have an investor from Connecticut and an investor from New York, the offering has to get approved by the state regulators, and you have to get offering documents across different jurisdictions. So it takes forever to do because, most people it wasn't used because before technology it was just impractical to even go through the process. Fundrise, however, technology is creating it so that their technology is making it easier to happen. Title IV, however, is removing I believe it's called the blue sky laws, where you have to go state by state. Is that right? Like, are the blue sky laws saying if there's no blue sky, that means you can go anywhere, right?
Blue sky just refers to state securities laws.
Yeah, so it's saying
those.
Absolutely. So they might remove that, which would make Title IV even more exciting than Title III. I just now I'm reading about it because it just got released for public comment about a couple months ago. And I'm meeting with an attorney actually to really understand it better. But Title IV might be an even bigger opportunity because it's moving that limit up to potentially 50 million that you can raise this way instead of just the 1 million that Title III is doing. So debt, same as equity, same regulations, except instead of buying a share in a company, you're loaning them money. Patchland.com is a real estate crowdfunding platform just for debt. Lending Club, as you guys know, that's a huge platform where it's peer-to-peer lending. And then circle up some of that. Another interesting thing is the royalty crowdfunding model. So they're giving people loans in exchange for a percentage of their revenues as the repayment terms. So for an early stage startup who may not be making a lot of income initially, this might be a good option because if they're only making $10,000 a year and the royalty is 10%, they only got to pay $1,000, but the loan might be for much greater than that. And then for investors, if the startup expands greatly, then suddenly they're getting a huge percentage in royalties. So it's another great model. So before I go on to problems that Reality Crowd TV solves in my business model, does anyone have any questions on anything that we just went over?
How about Canadian, like Toronto or Indian nations? Are there rules for them? Can they make their own rules?
So are you talking about, are they going through a global kind of like, is regulation going through their companies?
Well, right now everybody looks at the SEC, but if you're in Toronto, do you need to comply with SEC kind of stuff? Can you? Oh, we're in Canada. We have our own program.
You would have to comply. If you're trying to raise capital in the U.S., you have to comply with U.S.-based regulations. However, if you're doing a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, there's like no regulation in the rewards-based model. That's why I think most startups should always start there. If your company is a consumer product, just do the Kickstarter and Indiegogo model. Don't go for equity. Start at the proof of concept model of Kickstarter and Indiegogo before you ever consider doing this.
Actually, if you're a Canadian company, you couldn't use Title III because Title III is limited to U.S. companies in D.C. and
Yes. Yes, that's true too. What I will say, I got a call from a gentleman out of Panama who has a land deal for a mango farm, and I introduced him to some investors. So Title II, accredited investor, you could technically raise money for a foreign investment. There's going to be funding portals that figure that out, whether it's through the EB-5 visa program, which essentially you could, as a foreign investor, you could invest in the U.S. $500,000 in the EB-5 program, and they're going to give you a visa in exchange. It's kind of BS. I mean, that's kind of scary. But yes.
So go back to the like the Indiegogo model.
Yes.
If you were so you talked about how it's important to get 30% of the funding in the first week because you get the people are writing you up and you get all the kind of a buzz, if you will. But what if you're, let's say, yesterday I met with a bakery down in Brantford and she needs $30,000. She's not looking for all this buzz. She just needs $30,000 and she's willing to give a reward. How do you successfully navigate that model? Or how do you successfully leverage something like an Indiegogo just to get $20,000 or $30,000 because you may not make it on the front page?
That's a great question, and I have my answer to that. But what I think too is she probably has a great story. What's amazing about the Indiegogo and Kickstarter model is you're physically creating a video to kind of tell the story. Like, who is this person? How much has she done on her own without the money so far? What can she do with the money? Can she create jobs with that money? If you could paint a story, the beautiful thing about Kickstarter and Indiegogo is people want to feel like they're part of something. They want to feel like they're helping something and they're providing meaning to someone's lives. So in that model, you could come up with an innovative reward, right? Maybe she offers a loyalty program as one of the rewards. Maybe she offers discounts like a founding member. Of course, you can offer trinkets like a shirt or some little trinket to entice people to do it.
Free cupcakes.
Free cupcakes, yeah, free cupcakes for a year, whatever the case may be. Provide an experience as a reward. Maybe she can have, at the $1,000 level, you're invited to the grand opening party, invite only,
I would imagine it would have to be something like a cross between Groupon and Kickstarter, right? Because you're not going to get funding from California because the cupcake's going to be stale by the time it gets there. So
Well, she in this particular case,
Actually,
that's a good point. But she's actually a commercial baker. She does a gluten-free product. It's got mass distribution.
Oh,
But
awesome.
as her business is growing, and as most, her business is growing at a rate that is significantly greater than what she expected. So she's in a position where just her working capital needs are far less than what she envisioned. So she's now sitting back saying, "What do I do?" But
Small business development.
Turns out there was a
that's
story
That's
related to this on
That's
NPR
Emily.
just
That's
yesterday.
Call
And
Emily.
actually, they were focusing on a bakery. I think they were in Seattle or someplace, and they needed a trailer so they could expand and go around the community. So there's a community-based crowdfunding resource. I forget the name of the company, but if you look on NPR, the story is probably still there. The word that was coined for the investors who do this are called square holders, as opposed to shareholders. And they say, well, it's kind of a play on words because the town square mentality. So keeping a resource in the community. So that might be something for this individual to look at.
And the best advice would be have her go on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and the first thing I ask anyone who's about to do a campaign is find individuals who have done similar things to you and see what they did. Just look what they're offering, look at their profile, look how they presented their opportunity, and use that as a baseline to create your profile. The best way is just, don't recreate the wheel, just find what other people have done that's successful and suddenly you could replicate it.
Just a quick question, but
Sure.
do you envision crowdfunding starting to be channel specific, like consumer packaged goods, technology, or is that already happening?
The only way to compete against Kickstarter and Indiegogo is to be specific. If you want to get into the business of creating a crowdfunding platform, to me, you should dominate a niche and become the authority in that niche and provide ancillary services because you know that. That's the best way to get into the business now, unless you have millions of dollars to compete with the big players. I mean, Richard Branson just invested, I think, $40 million into Indiegogo. I mean, you know, Google announced the other day that they're going to incorporate crowdfunding into the YouTube power users. This isn't going away. If these big players are coming in, they see this as the future.
They smell money.
They smell it. Everyone's, you know, people are starting to smell it.
Can I ask you just very quickly?
Sure.
How does UC Berkeley use this funding model?
UC Berkeley is actually a research institute. So Dr. Richard Swart, and if you'd like me to introduce you to him, he runs that institution. He is part of Crowdfund Capital Advisors, and they were the guys who really brought the legislation to the Jobs Act to actually Congress and the Senate. I can actually have them come speak at UConn if you want. They were on my show, which I'll explain. The guys from Crowdfund Capital. I mean, allow me to be a resource for you guys. I really would want to help you in any way I can. You're my alma mater too, and you know I want to help in any way I can. So yes, I will introduce you to anyone you need to. Any other questions? Yes.
The cost of the services, either you're providing or the other crowdfunding mechanisms, do they have a variety of fees where it's front-end loaded, back-end loaded, set margins? Can you address that?
People are being innovative, especially startups that are trying to be funding portals. Kickstarter and Indiegogo model is just percentage of the money raised. So it's like a percentage of the money raised. On the equity side, you have some people who have this database of accredited investors, and in my opinion, I don't think this is right. I mean, it's a way to make money, but I don't think it's going to be a benefit to people who pay. But like seedinvest.com, they have a do-it-yourself model or a we'll promote your project for you. The do-it-yourself model, they're saying, I have 3,000 accredited investors, pay me $300 a month to network with them. I don't think that's going to be valuable for many people. They're just trying to find a way to survive. That's my opinion. I mean, that's kind of like snake oil salesman type stuff. I mean, I'm trying to get them as my client, by the way, but you know, I see this. I see the 360-degree view of this because I've had to network with everyone, and I know that most people would not benefit by paying $300 a month for only 3,000 investors. That's not a lot of people, but some people will be. It'll be sold to say, yeah, these guys will fund your deal, pay $300 a month, do it yourself. Like, no, that's not the right way to do business. It's a way to make money. It's just not the right way to do business, in my opinion. Did that answer your question? People are coming up with ancillary services, and I'll explain what one of my clients does to also earn extra income. So Reality Crowd TV Media Corporation. So ultimately, I see four major problems in the industry. Funding portals need deal flow. So Kickstarter and Indiegogo, they don't. But if you're a new funding portal, you need quality deals to be brought to your portal. You need a way to business development, right? How many of you are in the business of business development?
Sure.
Okay, great. I mean, right now, knock on the door of a funding portal, if you could bring them deals, you could work something out. It's that, they're that needed right now. They need help. Entrepreneurs. Oh, actually, additionally with the funding portals, they need deal flow. They need help in social media. Some of these guys, Fundrise.com has 3,000 followers on Twitter. They've been around for 3 years, and they just raised $31 million in a Series A. I don't know if you guys saw that news, but a Series A, $31 million, that's huge. So I'm knocking on their door to provide them with social media services because in 6 months, Reality Crowd TV has 15,000 followers that I've built organically. And so I'm going to try to sell them. And education. A funding portal cannot be one-on-one with every single crowdfunder who comes onto their portal and wants to raise capital. Like, I can provide services to them aside from their silly little blog post that says this is how you crowdfund. The extent of education on a funding portal is, here's a blog post, read it, now you'll know how to crowdfund. It's ridiculous, huge opportunity for education. Entrepreneurs. There's only, on Kickstarter, there's only a 43% success rate currently. That was much higher at 60%. but it's gone down for the first comment that I made. Great idea one day, a week later you're launching on Kickstarter. People, I always say this, crowdfunding leads to hope, hope leads to action, and currently action leads to 1 week, great idea, next week that. I want action to lead to education. There's two ways to make money in business. Make money on the ignorance of people, or make money educating people not to be ignorant. And that's what I'm trying to do. I don't want people to be ignorant. Consultations. You can get them to be client. With consultants, their issue is they need more clients. And they also need a way, let's say you're just a traditional small business consultant and you don't know anything about crowdfunding. What if you had a tool that you can say that you can help people on crowdfunding, and all you're really doing, which is what all consultants do, is brokering to a list of pre-vetted people who can help them? Wouldn't that be a great tool for a small business consultant to say, I can help you in crowdfunding? And now they have a tool to help people with exactly those services? That's what I'm thinking of. But that's part of what my plan is. And then finally, service providers, the people that are brokered to, they need leads too. A social media guy is looking for someone to help in social media. A PR guy is looking for somebody to help in PR. It's an amazing opportunity to connect the right people with the right resources. This is my brochure. Nothing really to see here. I can send you this via email. So clients today, I have 6 clients who currently are on monthly retainer. So just to back up, October 23rd, 2013, I hear about crowdfunding. December 24th, Christmas Eve, I quit the Hartford Insurance Company and I do this full time. I gave them 3 weeks notice. Kind of a funny story. On December 5th, I was at a colleague's desk and a phone call comes in. It's the VP of the department, and he says, please have Manolis come into my office right away. And I've been sending out press releases for the last 2 months. I'm like, crap, I'm done. So I'm walking down the hall, I turn the corner, VP's office, my direct supervisor's there as well. So I'm like, yep, it's over. I go in, long story short, they promote me. Right then and there. They promoted me. So I'm like, okay. I was planning to give my 2 weeks notice on the 13th, so this isn't good. The next day I come in early, I go to the admin and I say, please don't send out the announcement. I need to talk to them for a minute. And I give them my 3 weeks notice the next day. So it's kind of a funny story.
What do your clients get?
My clients. Karma Crowd is hired me for social media business development. So on April 27th, we took over their Twitter and their Google+. They only had 59 followers on April 27th. If you look on Twitter right now, I believe they have over 8,000 followers. We supercharged it, but if you look at it, it's 10, 20 retweets. This isn't just fake followers, this is engagement. We're building a community for them on social media, and we can do this for any business. In a way, we're hedging our bets. If for whatever reason crowdfunding hits the fan, we're still going to be here. We're teaching entrepreneurship. We're using crowdfunding to help entrepreneurs raise capital. We're also using crowdfunding as one of the best lead generation tools there ever was.
What do you do for Hartford?
I gave 2 presentations at the Entrepreneurial Center for Women, and I did that through the SBA. Yep. So, yeah. I'm also talking with WestCon currently. Have you guys heard of WestCon's program, the Center for Creativity, Compassion, and Innovation?
No.
They were one of only 2 programs in the nation that was seed funded by the Dalai Lama. It's kind of a cool thing. They got seed funded by the Dalai Lama, so they're kind of like a startup themselves. Yeah. I'd like to introduce you to Christopher Cook, actually. He's the director. Yeah. And I'm actually talking with them right now, and we're still in discussion. They sent an idea that I had for them to their provost, and they said, I said, wouldn't it be cool if we could have a public-private partnership where we create an innovation hub for crowdfunding? Basically a co-working incubator and accelerator where we split the profits. With my real estate experience, I rented 75 apartments in a year and a half. Basically, it's just the same thing. A co-working space is a gym membership for entrepreneurs. and I would just kind of run it and provide the crowdfunding content as the way to get membership and keep things rocking and rolling.
You made a comment a moment ago,
Sure.
and it's sticking in my head. You are using a variety of tools in social media development, PR, marketing, and a 9-step program that would fit any business development activity, not necessarily a crowdfunding specific business development activity, to support an entrepreneurial community. And I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but you're merely the facilitator in connecting one resource to a need, one need to another resource. And I presume you take a little piece out of each of those transactions as it passes through.
Yeah. Currently I'm doing a lot myself. Like I'm doing some of the social media, like on LinkedIn and Google+, I'm actually become very good at that myself. And I need to become good at it before I can hire someone else to do it, right? You don't want to just not understand something and just then pass it off. But on Twitter, I get a cut of that every time because I don't physically do the Twitter. But I have a guy on my team, like I basically get like depending on what the contract is, on average it's $250 that I would get, and then he gets the rest.
So out of the group of clients that you're currently serving today, can you point to a measurable improvement in their success as a result of engaging with you?
Yes, and my newest client, I don't know if I have them on here. Oh, actually, there is. Sorry, I have 7 clients. I didn't put one on there.
It's 18% growth.
7. One of the clients that I mentioned is Patch of Land. Patchofland.com is a real estate crowdfunding platform. They hired me just on Monday. And the reason why they knew about me was because I was invited as a media partner as Reality Crowd TV to the Global Real Estate Crowdfunding Conference in New York. Tickets were $1,000 a piece, but apparently I'm a member of the media now. It's kind of cool. And you know, I came in there and I got in there for free, network with these guys. With my real estate background, I could speak their language, so they understand that I'm of value to them. I wrote a blog post on LinkedIn about their company. They didn't do any PR, any kind of media, except for what I did for them. They said the next day they had 20 accredited investors register on their website, and they said that we can only attribute it to what you did on that blog post. On LinkedIn, they have a new function that says most viewed. You know, what number are you in comparison to your contacts? I have 9,000 contacts on LinkedIn, and I'm the number 42 viewed person out of 9,000 people. Number 1 is Tony Robbins. I'm trying to beat him, but it's going to take a while. If I can get Tony Robbins, I want to be the Anthony Robbins of crowdfunding. That's my goal. So you got the funding portals. They use me for business development. Pleasure. Thank you, sir. They use me for business development, and here's the other concept that I'm improving manually. One Day, Two Legends and Learn to Play Music were direct referrals from Karma Crowd. They were so happy with what I did for them, they said, here's 2 people using our platform, help them with what you're doing. I want to get across what I'm proving manually. I'm the prototype user of a technology that needs to be created, and I could see this industry 360. I could see exactly what needs to be created. I'm the prototype user of what anyone like me would use in an ecosystem. An online ecosystem could have also some components that are physical, but I want to get that point across that if you look at it in a real estate perspective, if you're a real estate agent, you want to focus on a property listing as opposed to going after a buyer. Because if you have the property listing, you market the property listing and the buyers come to you. The funding portal is the property listing. I market the property listing, they're going to send me the buyers or the crowdfunders. A technology ecosystem, API integrated with funding portals, part of my ideas that I'm thinking about.
So, how do you compete against Robert Hoskins? Because he seems to have a lot of the same plans.
So, I'm in discussions with them to potentially become part of their company too. Okay. We're working together.
All right.
But, long term, I don't know if I want to just do that though. Because what I want to create is a marketplace in between entrepreneurs and funding portals. I don't want to physically fund. I want to be in the space in the middle
So what
and
do you,
create that ecosystem like Kevin said, connecting, developing, building, deal flow, education, all that.
what's your belief on affiliate marketing?
I believe in it.
But its role specifically for crowdfunding?
So affiliate marketing is different than multi-level marketing. I don't think multi-level marketing should come into play in this industry.
I'm not talking
And-
multi-level.
I know. I just
I'm
want to make
talking
that.
affiliate
I
marketing.
want to make that distinction for everyone. MLM would ruin crowdfunding. I think it's a bad idea. Affiliate marketing and its role with crowdfunding, there's a lot of things that you could do with that. A lot of things that you could do with that.
We should talk, because my personal belief is that the future of crowdfunding is affiliate marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And,
I'd love to speak.
and being in the middle of that is where the money's going to be.
Yep. That's where I'm going, and the problem is I don't have a prototype of this ecosystem, but I'm going to share with you in a couple slides discussions I'm having, and if this doesn't work, I just came up with an idea how to do a very basic prototype.
So get us to those slides, 'cause
Yeah,
we're going to
sorry.
run out of time.
Sure. So just currently, when I consult people, I charge a monthly retainer. If it's rewards and donation, a monthly retainer plus a percentage of fundraise. So like think Goldman Sachs for Kickstarter. Equity, debt, royalty, monthly retainer, and if they want to, if they want me to consult, then I might ask for equity if they can't afford the monthly retainer for consulting. So I could ask for equity. Affiliate agreements, sale of crowdfunding education, information, and tools, as what the gentleman said, and then of course I can help with sponsorships, live events, and my show, and all those things. Strategy to scale. So I'm in a discussion with a company called Funding Roadmap to merge with them. Their tool is a business planning tool, due diligence, compliance, and they have this amazing piece which is not currently being developed called the crowdfunding hatchery. Marketplace listings is the entrepreneurs. Funding portal broker dealer is kind of the integration of their model into their system. It's not API integrated, but they could pay a monthly fee to be part of this ecosystem to get the deal flow. And then service providers, of course, is the consultants and everyone else. So they have a very rudimentary prototype. I would totally gut their system if I got funding, but I'm merging with them so I could show someone, this is what I have, fund us, so that I can then make it better. That's what I'm trying to do. And then they also have a certified crowdfunding advisor program which certifies them on the tool, which I also would do for whatever ecosystem I create. So here's just a kind of quick view. They got the business planning, and her current tool, although she said she needs to make updates to it, is mirrored to the equity crowdfunding laws and regulations. So when you fill this out, you're going to save yourself time instead of going to an attorney and having to do it from scratch. You do all this, and then you just have them review it. Due diligence report, again, for more regarding SEC. Numerical summaries report, another piece of that process. Crowdfund report, this is what you fill out so that you can promote, the entrepreneur can promote himself to the hatchery so that he can become a marketplace listing. And then here's the hatchery, right? You have the marketplace listing, the funding portals, and the service provider. So from a very rudimentary level, the founder of this is Ruth Hedges. She hosts the largest crowdfunding boot camp every year in Vegas. If anyone would like to speak with her, I'd be happy to introduce her. She's a great lady. And then that's her advisory program. So I asked her, how many users do you have of this? She only has 10. So she has herself in 10 different directions, very smart lady. And I said, let's merge. I'm all about business development. And hopefully she'll understand what I could bring, but some people don't want to give away their babies, as you know. So strategic partnerships. I've just spoken with the guy of ultimatecrowdfunding.com. He's going to stop what he's doing and then become the blogger on my new site when I launch it. So I'm going to have somebody building links, blogs, strategic relationships. Crowdfunding.com is a magazine. I just kind of entered into an agreement with them, revenue share. I haven't tried to get sponsorships for my show, but after 24 hours, after every show that I have on Google Hangouts on air, I have 250 live viewers that I've built up. So I'm going to start doing some sort of sponsorship revenue that I haven't tried over 8 months. I'm going to try it now. They're going to handle that piece, and we're all just going to cross promote it. Interten Capital out of Austin, Texas, they approached me and said, "Can we do a show, a series of 6 shows based on real estate crowdfunding?" You know, they're going to promote it to an extra 30, 40,000 people who never heard of me before. And then I'm also, you know, again, I can strategically position what we're doing as a buyout candidate for a funding portal, which Karma Crowd says, we want you. I don't know if it's going to be more of a partnership, but if it builds enough, like, we could become a potential buyout target for people in the future. So, any questions?
My head is swimming.
A couple of weeks ago, a fellow was here with a modular wing design that needs $10,000 to do a little prototype or proof of concept. And I said, well, you could do that on Kickstarter. But would you recommend Indiegogo? Do you have any thoughts on that?
You know, does he have a prototype built at
No.
all? No?
He's got a picture. He's got a sketch.
Can he hire someone to do a visual prototype?
Actually, he's, I think, doing it with UConn Senior Design Program.
Could be.
Yeah.
And I'm working with this, that individual as well, so I can glue the two of you together.
Cool. Yeah.
Cool. Go for it.
Because there was a Kickstarter called the InstaCube, which was just a picture frame that had a feed from Instagram, and all they did was create a prototype that wasn't the real prototype. They didn't have a working model, but it took them 3 years to fulfill the rewards, and people were thinking they were fraudulent. So the thing is, you can do a visual prototype, but you make sure that this individual understands the whole manufacturing process and what it could take.
Yeah.
'Cause
I've been talking with him about.
Yeah, it took like,
crowdfunding, so.
yeah, I mean, and someone was recently sued for fraud because they didn't fulfill on their rewards quick enough. So
Yeah.
that was like the first lawsuit to come out. So you got to, you know, that's very important you get those ducks in a row.
Paige.
Manolis, I've seen a lot of consultants popping up helping entrepreneurs through Kickstarter projects. And the prices I'm seeing are $5,000 to $10,000 on the first $50,000 raised. So you're talking 5-10% to the service, as well as the 5% or more to the platform.
Sure.
Can you talk? You know, have you seen that service really showing a great value as they're bringing these entrepreneurs through the crowdfunding process or the Kickstarter process?
I have
and
seen.
Just talk about the fees involved, because when you start talking about 20-30% off the top, it starts to get
It's
very
expensive.
Expensive
It
and
gets
really
expensive.
takes away from the project. So
That's a valid concern. One company I know, and he's a really good guy, Eli Regalado, I think it's the Mad Hatter Agency, out of Denver. When I went to Denver, he allowed me to speak there with him, and he was on the panel too. He says $15,000 is what I charge people to do this, but he takes on like high impact tech projects. So like he'll take $15,000 and do a lot of things, like help them through everything. And if they're raising, you know, so much over their funding goal, then it's worth the $15,000. Because what happens on a Kickstarter and Indiegogo is you could set your target for $50,000 as your goal, but if you still have time and you hit that number and you still have time in your campaign, you could keep raising more money. It doesn't stop when you hit your goal. Like a perfect example is Pebble Watch. You know, they asked for $100,000 on Kickstarter, and they raised $10 million. Ridiculous. 70,000 backers, which means they had a backlog of all these things, and then of course they got venture capital to come in because they couldn't handle it. But like, so it would only be worth it if they raised more money than you know what was asked. And so that's the goal. By hiring a consultant, the project creator is saying that I trust this person will raise more than what I asked for. And just one moment. As far as fees go, the way that we do it is, the way that my model is currently, and I'm still working it out, is I provide a tangible benefit with social media, right? So upfront, monthly retainer, I'm going to charge for social media, which is anywhere between $500, $750, $1,000 a month per platform. And then it lowers if you do more than one platform, right? So the tangible benefit that I provide is my monthly retainer. The consulting that I'm doing and the hands-on work I do, I say, we'll do that on the back end, because you won't know if what I did for you is going to work until we raise the money. So I don't feel good about asking for a $1,500 to $2,500 a month retainer just to consult. So in other words, I show them that if you're an established business, not only are we going to use your social media for crowdfunding, but if you're an established business and you're making sales, I'm going to increase your sales. Like, by increasing your sales, you're getting their information. That's helping you in your crowdfunding. And so not only am I helping them with crowdfunding, I'm selling my service as, not only are we going to crowdfund, but we're going to make sales now. The point is, social media is to make money now. You need this no matter what, not just for crowdfunding. And so we're using crowdfunding as a way to gather and funnel people, and they're going to do that. But we're really teaching them entrepreneurship as well. And did that answer your question on that? If people are not in social media right now, they're missing the boat.
Gary, how about communities? So let's just say, for the sake of argument, in Tolland you have an individual that would like to open a Panera-type concept and has all the passion to do it, but just doesn't have the funding. And you have a community that would like to see something like that in the town. Have you seen crowdfunding bring things like that together?
There is a guy out of Michigan who has a platform that he's licensing out to communities across the nation for that purpose. So yes, if you can get a community to rally, the challenge is, how do you get them to know about it? So if you're in a community, then you have to get the local governments involved, you have to get the states involved, to really educate people first on what it is. One of the greatest risks, or rather one of the greatest challenges right now, I went to a Starbucks with my GoPro camera, and I did an informal video poll of 8 people. 7 out of 8 people had never heard of crowdfunding or Kickstarter in Starbucks. I mean, if you go to a tech place, of course they've heard of crowdfunding, right? But Main Street America has not, which is why the opportunity is bringing the crowd to crowdfunding. Because as soon as you tell people about it, they're like, really? I had a great idea as well. And I had a dream once. I couldn't get a bank loan for it. I didn't have someone who wanted to invest in me. So you're saying that potentially if I put in a lot of hard work, I might be rewarded for that through crowdfunding.
So, Doug, I'm going to ask this question of you. Yeah, because we, right, have an enormous, well, maybe not enormous, but a fairly substantive cadre of startup opportunities that we're engaged with and have been engaged with for quite some time. Do you see this as this tool, crowdfunding tool, as something that improves the quality of the deal flow that we'll likely come in contact with?
So I think that with a lot of the